All right. So we're back again here. Back again with another live podcast. All right. So last time we got to know me, Tyranny Unmasked. We got to know a little bit more about our mission here, our goals, our roots, things that make us do what we do. And today, I have my good friend Seph here again, the one that was asking questions last time for me. And we're going to switch it around, and I'm going to ask questions of him, fair input. And we might get into other topics here. But as of now, this is my good friend, Seph N Haven.
Hi, everybody. How are you all doing tonight?
All right, Seph. So, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing fantastic. I got all my stuff moved into my new place. I've got my pets beside me. You know, one's in front of me, one's beside me. My bed's made. I'm fucking happy. No more couches.
All right, man. So, essentially, how did we get to meet? I think that'll be a good place to start. How did we meet each other? If you want to step into that.
Oh, I hijacked your guys' podcast, and then that was basically it. There were some people that we knew, we mutually knew, but we had never met each other before. And I wasn't even like, it wasn't like I was buddies with them either. I kind of just jumped into the podcast and we went on for like a 9-hour conversation with however many of us were in there. It was insane.
Yeah, it was a full solid 9 hours. And even after the podcast was offline, we continued on late into the next early morning talking about.
Yeah, and that was kind of the moment. And after that, I still tried to, you know, I was talking to not just you out of the podcast, but it just seemed like me and you, we stayed in contact more than anybody else from that podcast. And we stayed in touch and we kept on talking nonstop about this or that and throwing ideas back and forth. And yeah.
Right. And we had the initial thoughts of creating something as a platform, which is the Controversial Truth Project.
Yeah, like even right when we first kind of met, we were like, yeah, we should start some sort of thing, but we had no idea where we wanted to go with it or how it was going to come into fruition. And that really only kind of happened because I went crazy for 48 hours and decided that I was making a website, and then it was done.
It was like a voila moment, and you just got all the ideas rushing to your head, sort of like how like Beethoven said, described how he
I had some other things. I had one of my buddies, I went out for a little trip. I went and learned another job, and I was supposed to go run his company for him, and I got back and I was like, I don't want to work for anybody. I don't want to just run businesses for people for the rest of my life. I'm like, I want to do something that I'm actually like I enjoy doing, and I enjoy like getting content out there and spreading stuff. And I was like, let's just make the website and go with it.
And
So
not only are you doing stuff, it's what we feel like is for a good reason, a good cause.
well, I feel like it's not a waste of my life.
Right.
That's me. It's I'm doing something with my life, even if I don't topple down any walls by the end of it. At least I kept at it the entire time I was here, and that's something that I can kind of be proud of. For me, it's more just like that. It doesn't
Right.
matter. Doesn't
So
matter what. Just
tell us a
chipping.
little bit about your background that gives you the ability to be able to pursue this topic and pursue these methods that we use so well.
Uh, well, I've got I had a crazy upbringing, and then I've also got a wide range of studies that I've done, from physics to biology to psychology, and those three together are kind of not exactly the normal things that people would study. But I thought it was a fantastic idea because I thought it would give me a really good handle on the world and ability to basically teach myself. That was one of the main points, was if I was going to go to university and waste all sorts of money, I didn't want to have to go back in another 5 years to learn something else. I wanted to be able to teach myself whatever I would need from there, and I have kind of gone off on that. Then when I got out of school, I took all my useless degrees and I went into marketing. So I completely went into something that has no application to what I was doing whatsoever, but I ended up still finding ways to use it, and make it, make it work. Whether it had just been, making conversation with people that the average day person couldn't make a conversation with, right? Say that you're talking to somebody who's really highly educated, and there's another person very low educated. There ends up being almost like a language barrier that happens where they can't find any common ground of things. Where I might have gotten all that education, but I'm still kind of just the average day Joe. Um,
Right.
but that's really it. You've noticed probably, just like anybody that's been around, I'm very obsessive with things that I end up putting my mind towards. So it's kind of something that I just can't stop doing. I sit at it and I plug away for hours and hours and hours and hours until I pass out, and then I get up and I hit it again. And I don't. I enjoy my life being like that, which is something that I guess a lot of people don't like. Like people like a lot more, I guess, break time, whereas I kind of like just to like get in the flow, get in the mode, and just keep going and don't stop. So that's probably the biggest thing, because nobody else has as many hours in their day as I do, because I don't sleep. I'm just always working, always.
Yeah. You're the an actual vampire. Yeah. I think
Yeah,
that's something
it
interesting.
really.
I think the coolest thing that I found out when I first met you is that it seems like you're a bottomless pit of regurgitated information. It's like there's not a limit to the amount of information you can contain. It's just like blah. Here, here's everything.
Yeah, I think a lot of that has to do with it, just because sometimes I don't think about what I'm saying, and I just put everything that I've got in my head out in front of the person. They're like, "Okay, I don't understand anything that you just said." Um, and the word you used was the best word ever, regurgitated. It's not put out in any perfect form at times. It's just literally regurgitated right out. Um,
It seems like the more angry you are about the subject, the better it lines up. It's like your anger molds the words into a proper structure that feeds it just the right way to the person.
Well,
Which,
it takes me from being just thinking about things to when I get angry, I'm not really thinking about things. I'm more in a confident mode where I'm doing very much, and I'm not second guessing myself at all. Uh, but I guess your anger is one of those things that I've always had an anger my entire life, and I've always known that. So I've worked very hard on kind of trying to keep it under control. But I don't believe in how some people are like, no, you got to be all happy and feely all the time, and that's how you deal with your anger. No, that means that you've just fucking done something weird to yourself. You're like the Joker at that point. So no, I'm not going to go like that. but I'm not going to throw my anger away and say it's something I'm not going to use, because it definitely ends up being a tool that makes me more effective at different things that I do.
Right. It's all interesting, but essentially, your main topics is the expansion of Zionism and the Middle East, and what are some of your other topics? Something that not everybody might know, particularly that you tend to study and you keep an eye on it.
Oh, there's a lot. So we've got, different things in science. I'm a big fan, not a fan. I'm a big follower of different theories within plasma cosmology. A lot of them actually, and it's something that I've been following since I was in physics in school. Um, that's one of the big things that I'm always on. You've got economics. I like to follow different kinds of precious metals, lots of cryptocurrencies. I just recently took all of my money that was in Bitcoin out, and looking for a new cryptocurrency safe haven. Just because I think that there's going to be I think there's going to be new cryptocurrencies coming on the market that are going to be going to really explode, and I don't want all my money stuck in Bitcoin, and then not be able to sell my Bitcoins because there's a mass amount of people trying to sell them all at the same time.
What about Litecoin?
Pardon?
Have you looked into Litecoin?
No, not really. The big thing right now is between Bitcoin Classic and Bitcoin Core, which way is it going to go? And that's really what I'm paying attention as far as Bitcoin. There's different things within the medicine or the health world or the medicine world. It's kind of a personal thing for me because I was prescribed a drug that I ended up being highly allergic to when I was a child, and gave me brain damage, and I ended up spending a number of years not being able to speak properly, and having to relearn how to talk. So it's a personal thing for me, that even if it wasn't something that was controversial and stuff, I'd still keep on keeping up on it. So different things in alternative medicines, or I like a lot of I like knowing how things work. So it's not like I can say that there's any one topic. I'll go across all these different topics and I'll study them back and forth, and then something will come up that it'll really, really interest me, and I'll find it really, really fascinating. Where it's just like, whoa, well, that's how like that moves there and this goes there, and it's like you find the last puzzle piece. That's, I think, probably the best way to describe it. Yeah, those are big things. I used to be a lot more physical than I am currently, and I was a lot more into working out and being healthy and fit more myself. But that's more of a topic that I've kind of pulled back from in the last I'd say a year or two. It's not something that I'm as invested in as the other topics.
Something a lot of users don't actually realize, other than that random spur of the moment video that me and you created together about the magnetic fields. A lot of people don't know that we cover a lot of science, physics, and anything in that subject. You have the floor on that if you want to kind of.
Yeah, well, you know what? I think I'm probably not the only person out there. I think I grew up in a generation where we're all hooked onto Star Trek and stuff like that. So anything that had to do with space is interesting, and that's, when it comes down to it, anything in in cosmology it's interesting. It's the whole universe around us. I find it, it's big. I don't really know how to put it, other than it's just one of those things that I find really cool, and I know a lot of other people just find it a fascinating subject. But it's no fun for me just looking at really pretty pictures. I like knowing how things work, and knowing how how this theory, say the Einstein's theory of general relativity, how it works really, really well in our solar system, but then the second we go out of our solar system, it doesn't work so well. Or the second that we go really, really, really small, it doesn't work so well. And the different theories that end up working in those situations where those other physics end up falling apart. And I guess just like every person who's got a passion for physics, we're always, at the end of the day, hoping that maybe one day we just stumble on to the equation that makes everything work. So all these different theories end up working together. If I was going to put my money on it, I think we already did. It's really complicated to do the math using electromagnetics, like Einstein said. That's the biggest problem, because you've got to use the equations end up getting really, really complicated if you try to use electromagnetics as gravity. If you use Einstein's equations for it, it simplifies everything down to a much easier form. So you don't have to have all these complicated equations to go into it. The big thing is the tensors.
Right. I think the best way I've been able to explain that entire field is that science and everyone are scared to say that they don't have all the answers. And if they don't have all the answers and they don't feel like they have control of the situation, that's when they replace it with things that can, because it's better to feel like you have the answers than to admit that you don't have all the answers for a lot of people. I think that's what differs a lot of people in the truth movement and alternative views altogether, regardless of
the first one to admit I don't have all the answers, and I sit there studying all the time because I'm always trying to add more knowledge and more and more and more and more. And I think it's probably one of the reasons why I'm obsessive about learning is I can't stand being wrong about something. I really can't. So if I just try to always keep up on the new knowledge, and so that say that I am wrong on something, I'd rather learn that I was wrong on something before somebody confronts me about it. So that way, oh no, I already figured that out. I already learned that was the wrong thing, and nobody has to push it in my face. Whereas what you just described, well, they're kind of setting themselves up to get put in that position where somebody's going to push shit in their face.
That's the worst thing to be in.
Yeah, it's a horrible position to be in. That's where you get fucking bullied, literally, in the real world, and it's not high school anymore. Other than that, what would be some? I follow MGTOW subjects, a lot of history. I've got a really wide range of family backgrounds. So I'm Italian, French, Welsh, Polish, Russian, Samaritan, and Judean. So that's way too much.
You're like an amateur genealogist.
Yeah, well, as I've grown up, I've kind of gone from one family background to the next, and I've just wanted to learn everything about it. And then once you get to a certain point, you've kind of learned most of the groundwork, and you kind of step back and you only really look for the really interesting things that end up coming out, or the new discoveries, because it's not like it's my field. It's not like I'm sitting out in a summer digging or something like that. It's just not my thing. There's that, and I think I've covered it all. That's most of my brain there picked away. There's some others that I'll follow, but they're not so much things as I follow as things that I know that I'll need to learn. So I'm educating myself. So different kinds of writing, scripting, and stuff like that. Just things that I know that I'm going to need for the future. So I'm always learning something. Never know.
What are any upcoming things that you have planned for the website, or a video project, or something that you have in mind?
There is one thing. We're going to start covering it. I haven't exactly thought about how we're going to go about it. But anybody that's been following me for the last few years knows that I've been kind of in and out of the court system, beating charges, not getting convicted, then adding on new charges to make up for the old ones that they couldn't get me on, so on and so forth. And at a certain point, getting closer to the trial that's coming up at during the beginning of June, we're going to start covering more of. I'm going to start talking about a lot of the things that are rather disturbing about my cases that I'm beating one after another. Because really, at the end of the day, it's anybody that I've described it to can't say anything else other than that's malicious prosecution. They're literally just going after you for everything under the sun, and every time you beat something, they're just finding something else to blame on you. So we're going to start covering it, and we might as well, seeming that we have the website, we have 40,000 people coming through the website every week. we might as well put some stuff up about it, and bring some attention to actually how the court systems work in Canada, and how they it's a joke. The prosecutors and the detectives can basically just keep on throwing on bullshit on you, one after another, after another, after another, until just fucking forever. And really, when's it going to be the end of the day? When is the point where somebody turns around and snaps and goes insane because they're being harassed by the police for years after years? My problem is literally Canada. Everybody speaks about us like we're some sort of amazing country that's such an upholder of basic human rights. But I have had my basic human rights violated now for the last 3 years, over and over again, without trial. And when I went to trial, I was acquitted of the charges. So they never had a right to violate my rights in the first place. And they were violating my rights, and they'd even thrown me in prison for a certain amount of time before I had ever seen trial. Well, now they've got to get me on something, and this is really the reason why I'm being maliciously prosecuted, was because I beat my first charges. If I would have lost those, well, then they could have said, well, he did this, blah, blah, blah. We're supposed to violate his rights. It's okay that we put him in jail. But because I got acquitted of everything, they have to come up with the next thing. And that's why they'll keep on coming up with the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing. It's because they got to get me on something. Otherwise, they owe me that time back.
So it's like you're being perpetually held under a spotlight to where you have to keep your nose completely clean of the rigorous games that they're setting out and the traps they're setting out. It sounds like there's a good case for baiting there somewhere.
Yeah, well, you know what? Honestly, the first thing that came to my mind is like, this is entrapment. No, this isn't law. This isn't legal. Fuck off. Like
Entrapment.
This is entrapment. Every step along the way, it's been very much always trying to bait me into things and this and that. And yeah, thank God I've got a temper, but you've also seen that I've got a great amount of patience with my temper. So yeah.
And you don't let unjust things slide, regardless of who's perpetuating those unjust actions.
Well, no, and literally, I could understand if if I was getting if they had some idea that I'd done something really horrible, but the original charge was bogus, and they knew it was bogus. They should have never charged me. It's their fault that they lost. It's not my fault that they now owe me time, and they have to cover their end of the deal, or they have to cover their end. Otherwise, they know that I'll be coming back in civil court, and I'll be suing them. And it'll look bad on all of them. It'll look bad on every prosecutor that was involved, every detective that was involved, every cop that arrested me. Every single one of them will be held under a spotlight, just like they've been holding me under the spotlight. So in the next few weeks, we're going to start bringing more attention to it. I'm going to be talking about more things. I won't be talking about names, dates. I'll be keeping most of that kind of stuff out, the kind of stuff that will get me in trouble. But as far as what's already been done, especially in the charges that I've already beaten, I'll be speaking about that more, and talking about how I ended up with the other charges, and explaining it all out, and bringing as much attention to it as possible. One of the other things we're thinking about doing is I've been basically an anonymous. I've been faceless since I got into MGTOW, since I got on the internet and I started having a voice for the last few years now. So
Right.
We're thinking that possibly we may end up inviting a whole bunch of our fans to the courthouse that day if they'd actually like to meet Seph N Haven in person. It'd be the only time that it'd happen. It wouldn't. You'd get to see his face once, my face once, and that's it.
I think I would show up if I could actually
Access to Canada?
Yeah. Hey, I've done it once before.
Yeah. Well, it's if we end up bringing more attention to it, there's a lot lower likelihood that they're going to keep on going against it. They're probably going to just have to call it quits, because the more that they go, the more attention and the more witnesses, the more public it is, the worse it ends up being for them. That's it.
Knowing my luck, though, I'd end up getting stranded in Canada, and
well, that's okay. I got room on the floor here.
Oh
But
man.
yeah, so that's what's going on, and we're going to be working up to it. I'm going to be covering a lot more topics that have to do with, civil rights, libertarian ideals. I'm going to be changing gears a little bit, not so much covering the health and med, the science, and the Zionism, and I'm going to be working a little bit, I guess closer to home, you could say, over the next few weeks. I'm not going to be giving up any of those subjects. For absolutely not. There's no way that's going to happen.
Did you
I'm not going to be going at them. I'm going to put my attention in one direction and let the cards fall where they may.
right? Yeah, you watched the libertarian debates, and did you find any candidate that you found any particular interest in? Or
No, no.
not?
I found interest in the debates and some of the things they said, but I didn't find interest in them as candidates.
What was something that you liked that you felt like it was something that's been needed to be talked about?
Oh, I just liked that they had three people up there that actually, when conversations started getting heated, they turned into, well, that's the way the government is, and we need to change it, instead of some bullshit nonsense where the two other parties go. I really enjoyed that part, that they actually, well, it's because the government's spending all this fucking money. That's why it's happening. Just take away the government, take away their paycheck. They don't have all that money to spend. Well, they can't go fuck around all those people. You don't have all those bad problems called back on you. Really simple.
And I watched the libertarian debates. I watched the independent debates. I watched it wasn't really a debate because the candidate was pretty much predestined for the Green Party, and there's like no money in any of that, and it shows. I think on the independent party, they filmed it in some kind of community center on a 2001 Handycam, and you couldn't even see all the candidates in the debate. So there's two candidates on each side you couldn't even see because they weren't in frame.
Oh, that's nice. Well,
So and people say why they're not a real chance. Well, it's because they're not giving us the same stage as the two main parties. Even libertarian, they have a little bit of money behind them, but they still only can get as far as they can push themselves on their own platform.
yeah, there was the libertarian debates. I enjoyed it, even though the candidates, I didn't really like them. Like, I enjoy watching Donald Trump rip somebody's rear end out much more than I enjoyed watching libertarian debates. But the libertarian debates, it's more of a intellect thing. So I found that they gave a lot more context about specific issues or specific problems, and they didn't just stop at the selling points. They actually talked a little bit more in depth about things.
Right. My speakers just randomly swapped on me, so I couldn't hear you for a second.
It's okay. I just kept on talking.
Okay. Was there any other main subjects you wanted to hit on while we have the platform here and people watching?
No, that's really it. We got 1 minute. I just wanted to say thanks for everybody that showed up and viewed it, and everybody that came live and commented and all such. And yeah, that's it. Peace out and enjoy, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, we should be here next week around the same time, 8 p.m. That is Central Time, and you can convert the time yourself on that. But we should see you here next Wednesday. All right, guys, it's been a blast, and peace out, guys.